Hello, this will be lesson 9.1 and 9.2. We'll be covering pages 265 through 276. We're going to be talking about circumference, area, and volume. Okay, we're going to be covering standard G4. I can use circle formulas for finding the circumference and area of circles. We are going to talk about some definitions for a minute. So we have some definitions that go with circles. The radius of a circle is a line segment with one endpoint at the center, right here, of the circle and the other endpoint on the circle. So this could be a radius. You could also have other radiuses as well. This could be a radius, right? Any line that comes from the center to an endpoint on the circle. All of these would be considered radius. Radii would be the plural for radius. So any one of those. Diameter is a line segment that passes through the center of the circle and whose endpoints lie on the circle. The length of the diameter is 2 times the length of the radius, and that will be important to know that. So we could have multiple diameters just like we could have multiple radiuses. As long as they pass through the center of the circle, they are a diameter. Okay, any one of these different directions could be a diameter. They're all going to have exactly the same length. What about this kind of line here? That is not a diameter because it does not pass through the center of the circle. That is actually called a chord. Any line that goes from one endpoint to another but does not pass through the center is a chord. So this would be a chord. Any of the reds are chords. Okay. Circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle. So it's like you're taking a walk around a circular building. So you'd be walking around like this, all the way around the outside, like that. That's how far you walk, that's considered the circumference. The area, on the other hand, is the distance of the inside of the circle. It's how much square area covers the surface of this two-dimensional shape. Now, a couple of things about circle information. How does the circumference of a circle, the outside measurement, compare to the area of the same circle? So the circumference is always a little more than 3 times the area of the circle. The circumference to area ratio is C to D. I'm going to turn off my heater. C to D here. So circumference to diameter is 22 to 7 or 22/7. That's going to be an important number. If you divide 22 by 7, so if you were to take 22 on the inside of your division and 7 on the outside, you'd get 3 times 7 is 21. I want to show you this for just a second. 22 minus 21 is 1. You can put a decimal and keep going and put a 0. Now you get 10. 7 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. 10 minus 7 is 3. Bring down another 0. Like this. How many 7s go into 30? 4. Extend this out. 4 times 7 is 28. 30 minus 28 is 2. Keep putting down another 0. How many 7s go into 20? I'm going to run out of room in a minute on my screen. So it would be 7 times 5. I think I have a wrong number in there. 5 times 7, 4 times 7, 3 times 7, 2 times 7 is 14, right? And then we would keep going, and you would keep going. So I actually have to change this. So this should be a 2. I want to double check that with my calculator because 2.1428. Yeah, so whatever happened, my calculator didn't like it. So it should be 8 and then a 5, 7. I'm going to go like this. 5, 7, dot, dot, dot. So 22 divided by 7 is 3.142857, and it goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. Never repeats, never ends. So what is 3.142857? 3.142857, 1428, I'm fixing it. It's a famous number. Do you know what it's called? Well, it's in red if you don't know. It is pi. The symbol for pi, it's spelled P-I, not P-I-E, not the kind you eat. Pi, it's a mathematical symbol represented by this little symbol right here. All circle calculations will include pi. The symbol for pi, or the symbol pi is equal to 3.14, etc., etc., etc. We usually just say 3.14 or 22/7. Now, which number do you think is more precise for pi? Is it 3.14 or is it 22/7? Well, 22/7 is actually more accurate than 3.14. So you'll be using both when you do your homework. So one other little tidbit of information, if you square the circumference of a circle, it equals 4 times pi times the area of the circle. So here's circumference, square it. That's the same as 4 times the pi times the area. So that's just a little bit of information for you. Now I would like to go through some of the problems from the book. So we're going to do that. Okay, I'm on guided practice page 268. 268. I'm combining 2 lessons, so you will not be required to do as many of the independent practices in either section. You'll be doing the odds. But for the guided practice, I want you to do all of them because I'm doing them on the video with you. So find the circumference of each circle. So we have the circumference is equal to pi diameter. So that is our formula. So let's write that formula out here so we have it. Circumference of a circle is equal to pi, I gotta figure out how I'm gonna get pi in there, pi times diameter, right? Or what if you are given the radius and not the diameter? Then it would be 2 times the radius times pi. So 2r times pi. And I'm going to have to find pi here. Maybe I can just find it right up here. Let's see. Insert. Got to move my tools. Insert a symbol. Not that. Insert a symbol. Pi should be one of the symbols that I can insert. Yep, right there. Okay, so there's pi. And actually, I'm going to write this word. Circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or 2r and then pi. Let's put the little pi over here, right there. And then I'm going to get rid of the red part. Okay, and then we can circumference. What did I spell it wrong? Yeah, I guess I did. Let's put that in red for us so that we can see that. And let's make it big so it's right there in front of us. Circumference is equal to pi times diameter, or 2r pi. I always like to say 2 pi r, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so find the circumference of each circle. They give you the circle here, right here, and they give you the, is that a radius or a diameter? Right, it's a diameter. So they give you the diameter, so we just have to plug that in, and we would get pi, and I'll try to draw a little pi here, pi times 9, right? And what is the value of pi? Well, it can be 22/7 or it can be 3.14. So we are going to do 3.14 this time. So 3.14. And a lot of you might have on your calculator a pi symbol. A lot of times you have to use the inverse function on your calculator to be able to use it, but check out your calculator and see if you've got pi on there. So if we multiply 3.14 times 9, we get 4 times 9 is 36. I'm not going to go through and calculate all of these out. I'm going to use my calculator so we can save some time, but I just want to show you. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 3, 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 9 is 27 plus 1 is 28. And then I have how many numbers after my decimal? 2, right? So the approximate circumference is going to be 28.26, and I think it's in inches. So that's approximated because remember pi goes on forever and ever and ever, and you can never get it exactly right. So number 2, circumference is 2 pi r. That's our second one right here, 2 pi r. So you can either use pi diameter or 2 pi r. If they give you the radius, you just double the radius. So in our case, they are giving us just a radius. They're giving us 7 centimeters for our radius. Let's highlight that right here. So that's our radius of 7. And they would like us to use pi being 22/7. If you notice in this problem right here, they want us to use 22/7 instead of 3.14. So we're going to do that. We'll write that out here. So we have 2 times the radius, 7, times 22/7. That's pi, okay? So I'm noticing when I do this and set this up, I'll actually put this over 1 so you can see that they're all fractions. All fractions being multiplied together, and I'm going to change colors. Notice that I can cancel the 7's out. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. And now I'm left with 2 times 1 times 22 on top and 1 times 1 times 1 on the bottom. So I'm just doing 2 times 22, which is, hopefully you know that, 44 over 1, or just 44, right? So the answer to this one is, what is the circumference? It's 44 centimeters. In centimeters because the radius is given in centimeters. Okay. I'm going to clear my drawings. And let's do number 3 here. Find the circumference of each circle. Use 3.14 or 22/7 for pi. Remember, 22/7 is a little more accurate, but round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So the nearest hundredth, so it goes tenths, hundredths. So we're going to have to go to the thousandth place to know how to round it to the hundredth place. So we're given on this number 3, we're given 25. That's a diameter. So we're going to go over here and we're going to use pi times the diameter of 25. So if I were to do that, I'm going to go 3.14, the bad 3, 3.14, I'm going to erase that, make a better one, come on, doesn't want to let me do it, I'm going to keep that 3 right there, oh well, okay, 3.14 times 25, remember when you're multiplying with decimals, you don't line up the dot, you just put the number with more digits on top. And then you multiply that out, and you guys are pretty much past that. You should all know how to do that by now. So 3.14 times 25 on my calculator is 78.5. 78.5. And we look at our unit of measure. Turns out to be meters, so it's going to be 78.5 meters. And it says round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. I don't think it was necessary. That's an actual answer. So there is no hundredth place in that answer. Number 4 is 4.8 yards, and that is a radius that's given to us. So with a radius, we want to use the second formula, 2r pi. So let's multiply, and I'm going to use the 3.14 number. 3.14 times 2 times 4.8, right? So 4.8, use the calculator, 4.8 times 2 is 9.6. So I'm going to move my eraser mark here. 9.6. So I'm going to put 9.60. There we go. And then we multiply that out. And you would get times 3.14, 30.144. So remember, we have to round to the nearest hundred. 30.144. And we have to round to which place value? Hundredths, which is right here. So in order to do that, we have to look at the guy next door here on the right. If he is 5 or more, we have to round the guy to the left up 1. So this is not 5 or more. So we're just going to leave the guy next door here a 4, and we're going to drop the other guy. So it's just going to be an answer, and I'll put the answer right over here, 30.14, and that's yards. So there would be our answer, rounded to the nearest hundredth. Number 5, we are given a radius, or are we given a diameter? Yep, we are given a radius. So we have to double the radius, right? So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to double. Let me get rid of some of this other stuff here for a minute. So we have a little bit more room. Okay, so we have 7.5 times 2, right? Because that's 2r. 7.5 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 10 is 14 plus 1 is 15. You have one number after the decimal. So it's 15.0. Multiply that by pi. I'm going to use 22/7 this time just because we haven't done one with that now for a couple of problems. So 15 over 1 times 22/7. 22. Sometimes using the fractions, though, it's going to be a lot more work. Nothing cancels out here. So I'm going to be multiplying on top. 22 times 15, which is going to give me 330 on top. 3, 3, 3. And on the bottom, I'm going to get 7. And then I have to divide 330 divided by 7. I will get 47.142857. So remember, we have to round to the nearest hundredth. So 47.142. We look at the guy next to the 4 on the right side. If it's 5 or more, we round up. It's not, so we're going to keep it 14. So 47.14, and oops, I forgot to put the label. That is inches. Okay. So far, so good. It's just plugging in the numbers in the formula. Okay, let's erase this and see what number 6 says. It says a round swimming pool has a circumference of 66 feet. Oh, this will be a good one. Carlos wants to buy a rope to put across the diameter of the pool. The rope costs 45 cents per foot, and Carlos needs 4 feet more than the diameter of the pool. How much will Carlos pay for the rope? So they have this all set up here. So what are they doing here? So they were given the diameter. I'm going to have to clear these drawings. Given the diameter, we're also given the circumference. So in this problem, we know the circumference. So our formula is circumference equals, we're given pi d, right? Pi d. And circumference is 66. And you guys know how to solve these problems now because you know how to move things around on both sides of the equation. 66 equals pi times the diameter, which is what we're trying to find out. They don't tell us that. We also know he needs 4 more feet than what the diameter is. So I could actually draw a picture if necessary. Sometimes it's helpful, especially with word problems, draw a little picture, show yourself what you're talking about. So we're talking about a pool that has a diameter of something. We don't know what. That's what we're trying to find out, but we know all the way around it is 66. So now how would I solve for D? Let's pick a different color here. How do I solve for D? Well, you have to get D by itself. How do I get D by itself? Well, you use inverse operations, and we know that this is pi times D, so we are going to divide both sides by pi this time. Okay, and if I divide both sides by pi, pi itself will cross itself off over here, right? Pi divided by pi is just 1. And then I'm left with 66 divided by pi. So what am I going to use for pi? I can use 22/7, or I could use 3.14. And the easier way would be to divide 66 by 3.14. 3.14, and that will equal D, our diameter. So I don't know how they got all these boxes over here. I think they wanted this to be 66. Yeah, that's going to be messy. They wanted that to be 66, which is what we're doing. And then they wanted 66 on top over here, just like we did. Just kind of helping you out a little bit there. Okay, and so then 66 divided by 3.14, I'm going to do that on my calculator right here on my phone. 66 divided by 3.14 is 21.019. So the diameter, does it say what place value to round to? No, it doesn't. So diameter would be 21 approximately. We're just going to round to the whole number. So 21 is our diameter. Now find the cost. Carlos needs blank feet of rope. He needs 21 plus, it said in the problem, where's my line? He needs 4 feet more than the diameter of the pool. So we know the diameter is 21, so he's going to need 21 feet plus, if it was in feet, yep, plus 4 more, right? 21 plus 4, hopefully y'all know that one, 25, right? Okay, so he needs 25 feet of rope. Let's put that in here. 25 feet of rope. And it costs 45 cents per foot. So we're going to put 25 times 0.45. So if I use my calculator and I get 25 times 0.45, I get $11.25. So it's going to cost him $11.25. And I want to put a dollar sign by that on my answer. Carlos will pay $11.25. There we are. So far, so good. Okay, so now we're going down to find the missing measurements to the nearest hundredth. So let's clear our drawings. If you need to pause the video to get this down, go ahead. I'm going to clear the drawings. Gone. Okay, moving up. It only goes that high. So find each missing measurement to the nearest hundredth. Use 3.14 for pi. They're telling you what to do now. So they give you the circumference. They are not giving you the radius, not giving you the diameter. Find each missing measure. So we know that circumference is equal to, well, if it's diameter, it's pi times d, right? Pi times d. And we know the circumference is given. The circumference is pi. Look at that. The circumference is pi. And we know we got a pi over on this side. Don't be confused on this one. And we have a diameter here. How do I get d by itself? I divide both sides by pi to get d by itself. There we go. And if I do that, look what happens. Right? I'll double check this, but yeah. So we're going to cross this off. We'll be left with d on this side, and we're going to cross these off, right? What is pi divided by pi? Well, it's 1, isn't it? 1 is equal to d. So our diameter in number 7 then, the diameter is equal to 1 yard. Okay. What about the radius? What would that be equal to? Remember the radius? It takes 2 radiuses to make a diameter, 2 radii. So half of the diameter, half of 1 exactly is 1/2. So 1/2 a yard is the radius. Okay. Number 8, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to plug in what we know. So we have this time the circumference here is 78.8. So we're going to plug in 78.8 feet. And because I'm doing 2 sections, this video might be a little longer than some of the other ones. So if you need to watch half of it and then wait and watch the other half, go ahead and do that. 78.8 feet is equal to pi times the diameter again. And you'll get the familiarity with this pretty quickly. So now how do we get d by itself? Oh, I apologize, it's my phone ringing. I'm going to turn that off. How do we get pi by itself? We divide, d by itself, we divide by pi to both sides, like this. And the 2 pi's are going to cross off, leaving us with just d on the right side. Doesn't matter if d's on the right or the left, right? D equals 78.8 divided by pi. I'm going to take my calculator. 78.8 divided by pi, 3.14. 25.0955414012739. So approximately 25. Okay, we're going to round it to a whole number, 25. You're going to get a lot of really long numbers with circles, just so you know. So 25 is the diameter. So we're going to put 25 feet in there. Now, what is the radius going to be? What do you think the radius is going to be? Half of 25 feet. Oh, I just noticed the instructions told us to round to the nearest hundredth. I just noticed that. So they want us to round to the nearest hundredth. So let's go back to number 8. There isn't anything to round to in number 7, but number 8, let's do that again. 78.8 divided by pi, 3.14. It was 25.095, which then becomes, how do you do that? 25.095. I'm going to put that in there for a minute because I want you to look at that. So the 0.95, you want to look at the number right here next to the 9. It's a 5. So 5 or more, you round up. So the 9 is going to round up to a 10, but you can't put a 10 right there. So you're actually going to round up to 10. Okay, so it's going to be 25.10. So we're going to put that in there now that we have it. And make it red, 25.10. Okay, now we can do half of 25.10 to be the radius. So I'm going to take my calculator, 25.10. You could easily just divide this. 12.55. So the radius is 12.55. I would have just divided it, but on the computer it's slower, so I figure I'll just do that. Okay, let's move it up just a little bit so it fits. Okay, number 9, same thing. No, 9's a little different because what do they give you this time? They give you the diameter this time. So move this out of the way a little bit here, and This time you are going to do, you're missing C, so C is missing. You know that pi is part of your formula, and you're given the diameter, 3.4. So pi times 3.4 will give you your circumference. So I'll leave that up to you to do that one last one there. And then number 10, Nora knows that the diameter of a circle is 13 meters. How would you tell her to find the circumference? She knows the diameter. You would just write the formula there. So number 10 is just asking you to write the formula for finding the circumference. Okay, if you need to pause for a little bit, take a break and come back, I'm going to go on to section 9.2 and we're going to do some area problems with circles next. Okay, here's the formula for the area of a circle. It's pi r squared, and in your book on page 273 it actually works you through that, and on page 271 it works you through how that formula is derived. I don't want to make the video too long and go over that, but next year if you would like to find out and you just really want to know how to derive the formula for the area of a circle, I will be glad to show you that next year for sure. So in the meantime, we're just going to go plug ahead here on page 274. Find the area of each circle round to the nearest tenth, if necessary, and use 3.14 for pi. So we have our first of all, the area is pi r squared, so we're going to have to square the radius. So we are given the diameter of 14 meters right there. So we can't use diameter in our area formula. So we have to take the radius. So what is the radius of a diameter? It's half of the diameter. So half of 14 is 7, right? Now this is where a lot of people mess up. Don't forget it's r squared. So the radius is equal to 7, half of the diameter, but in the formula up here, it's r squared. So you have to square it. Don't add it back together and make it 14 again. 7 times 7. 7 squared is 7 times 7 times what? Times pi, right? So what is 7 times 7? 49 times 3.14. 3.14. And on your calculator, if you do that, you should get 153.9 something. Let's do it. 49.3, no, 49 times 3.14. 153.86. And we want to round it to the nearest tenth. So let's take a look at that for a minute. 153.86 rounded to the nearest tenth. That's the first number after the decimal, right? That's the 8 right here. So we want to look at the number next door. If it's 5 or more, we have to go up 1, right? So this happens to be 5 or more. It's 6. So now the 8 is going to change into a 9, and then the 6 is going to drop off. So the answer to the first one then is 153.9, and what is the measurement? Meters? And remember, it's going to be square meters, or meters with a little 2, which I can't do on this program. So 153.9 square meters. Don't forget, area is always talked about in squares. Okay, let's try another one. Move that a little bit so we can see it. The next one is you're given the radius of 12 millimeters. So how do we do it? Pi r squared is our formula. Don't get that mixed up with the circumference formula of 2r pi. That's 2 times the radius, not the radius squared. So don't get that mixed up. A lot of people mix that up. So we have 12 is our radius. It's already given in radiuses. So 12 squared times pi. So what is 12 times 12? That one should be one you got memorized. 12 times 12, yes, 144. Somebody probably said it out there, times pi. So we have to figure out 3.14 times 144. 3.14 times 144 is equal to 452.16. 452.16. And then round to the nearest tenth. So we're rounding to the first number after the decimal. We look at the guy next door. He's a 6. He's 5 or more. That means this is going to change to a 2. And this guy is going to drop off. So the answer then is 452.2 millimeters squared, or square millimeters. Square millimeters. You could put a little 2 by the mm if you'd want to do that. Try to move it over just a little bit. It fits. Okay, next one. The area of that circle is, let's move this again. So the area of this circle, they're giving you the diameter. Be careful on this, always check that. So you want to do radius, right? Half of the diameter is the radius, so half of 20, 10. Now you're going to square the 10, right? Don't forget that. Times pi, that's going to give you the area. So 10 times 10 is 100, right? And 100 times pi, 3.14. You know what to do when you multiply by 100? Just move the decimal 2 to the right, right? But now we want to go to the 10th place, so we have to know what the number is after the 3.14 with pi. So we're going to have to, I don't know if they want us to do that or not. Nope, they don't want us to do that. They want us to just leave it rounded like that. So it's just going to be 314 yards, square yards, just like that. Try to move that over a little bit. If you need to pause the video and get this down, go ahead. That's the answer. Okay, we're going to get a little bit harder here. Number 4, a clock face has a radius of 8 inches. What is the area of the clock face? Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. Okay, that one's just like the one we did, only it's a word problem this time, right? It's not drawing us a picture. So we're going to look at that one. Clock face has a radius, so if you want to draw a picture, you can. It's always helpful. And then you would put your, it tells you the radius. You know that's not the diameter. It's going to be just that far. So a clock face has a radius of 8 inches. What is the area? So now you're going to plug in your numbers. So this is 8. So it's going to be pi r squared. So 8 squared times pi. And I'll leave you to figure that out. And don't forget your answer is going to be in square inches for that one. Number 5. A DVD has a diameter of 12 centimeters. What is the area of the DVD? Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so we're going to erase this one. And we're going to erase that. And now they're giving you the whole diameter. So we're going to go across the whole thing. And the whole diameter is 12. So we're going to put that in. So now I know that, remember my formula has to use the radius. So half of 12 is 6, and I'm going to square it because it's r squared times pi. So 6 times 6 is 36. 36 times pi is, I'll do this one for you, 36 times 3.14, 113.04. 113.04, but remember we want to round to the nearest tenth. No, nearest hundredth, 3.04. So this time we want to round to the nearest hundredth. Gotta look at the instructions. So that's the answer. But then again, we gotta put in the label. So that's square centimeters. Okay, 113.04 square centimeters. Number 6, a company makes steel lids that have a diameter of 13 inches. What is the area of each lid? Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. I'm going to let you do that one. I want to get into some of these other ones. So I'm going to clear everything so as we go on to number 7. Okay. Number 7, oh, it won't go up any higher. Says circumference equals 4 pi. What is the area? Okay, so how do we do this? What do you think? Okay, for something like number 7, you have to use your, go back up to our notes here for a minute. If you square the circumference of a circle, it equals 4 times pi times the area of the circle. This formula right here is what we need to use for number 7, number 8, and number 9. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are going to, I'm actually going to copy this over to the next page so we can see it on our screen. Okay, so they are giving us the circumference, which is, and don't let this pi thing scare you about it, okay? The circumference is 4 pi, right? So we're going to write that. So 4 pi, and notice that it's 4 pi squared because it's c squared. So the circumference has to be squared, and that's going to equal 4 pi times the area, and that's what we're looking for, is the area. So we need to get A by itself. Before we can do that, we're going to have to square 4 pi right on the left side. So if I square 4 pi, what do I get? I get 4 times 4, right? 16. And I'm just going to leave the pi here with it, right? Pi squared, 16 pi squared. And then I equal, that all equals the 4 pi A, and A is our area. That's the one we're trying to get by itself, the letter A. So how do I get it by itself? I divide both sides by 4 pi. Now watch this. Don't get tricked on this. It's actually not as bad as it looks because of the pi symbol, but it'll be fine. So now, pick a different color here. So how many 4s go into 16? 4, right? So 16 divided by 4 is 4, and the 4 divided by itself is 1. Now look at the pi situation that we have going on. We have 2 pi's up here and 1 pi down there. If we divide the pi on the bottom by 2 of the pi's on the top, this pi goes away and this pi becomes what? Just 1 pi, right? 1. So now we're left with 1 pi. So we're left with basically 4 pi. So we are left on this side with 4 pi. And on the other side, the 4 crosses off and the pi's cross off. We're left with just A, right? And that's what we want. So what is the area of number 7? What's the area supposed to be? The answer is 4. Oh, I don't have a pi symbol. I'm going to write it. So it's going to be 4 pi. And then is it squared, or what do you think it should be? Just 4 pi or 4 pi squared? 4 pi square units, because they don't give us units. So 4 pi SQ units. SQ, I'm going to write it down here for a minute. I'm going to have to erase it, but yeah. 4 pi square units. Okay. Number 8. Let's go to erase. Now, remember we're going to use our formula again. They're giving us the circumference of 12 pi. So we know we got 12 pi equals, look at our formula, 4 pi, trying here, times A again. So remember, we're gonna square this side because it's circumference squared. So what is 12 pi times 12 pi? Now that should be 12 times 12, 144, and we're going to keep the pi squared part right the way it is. We're not going to take 3.14 times 3.14. We're going to leave it just like that. Why? Because a lot of times the pi's cross off. So, I mean, you can go ahead and do something like that, but don't. When you do these kind of problems and you have pi, wait until the very end before you change pi into 3.14 when you're working through these problems, because a lot of times the pi's cross off. So now we have 144 pi squared equals 4 pi a. 4 pi a. Now we're going to divide both sides by 4 pi. 4 pi right here, and we're going to do the whole thing on this side too, 4 pi. Now what happens? You have to think about that. On the right side, the 4's cross off and the pi's cross off. We'll be left with a, which is what we want. And we are left on the other side with 144 divided by 4. 144 divided by 4. I'm just going to do it. I think I should know it. 144 divided by 4, 36. So this is going to cross off and become 36. 4 into itself becomes a 1. Now what about the pi's again? We got a 1 pi on the bottom and 2 pi's on the top. So 1 pi is going to go away. And this is just going to be pi by itself and no more 2. It's just going to be a 1 pi. So then our answer then becomes 36 pi equals A. And there is no unit, so it's going to be square units. We're going to put that in there. I'm going to say it equals, oh, I can't, I got to draw that pi word. I got to draw it. So it's going to be 36 pi square units. I'm not going to write square units just because it's going to run into the other ones. So 36 pi square units. All right, now let's look at number 9. Clear my drawings here. Hopefully you're following me okay. It gets a little bit weird to start working with pi, but after a while you'll find that it's actually pretty easy. So, but at first it can seem weird. Okay, now we have circumference is equal to pi over 2. So pi over 2. And remember, we're going to square that. Formula above us. Square that equals 4 pi a. We want to get a by itself. So first we're going to square this. How do we square pi over 2? Well, it becomes pi squared on top. And it becomes what on the bottom? 2 times 2, or 4, right? There you go. Equals 4 pi a, 4 pi a, and now how do I get a by itself? I have to divide both sides by 4 pi here. And I got to divide this one by 4 pi. Don't get tricked on this one. This one's a little weirder. Okay. Let's see what we got going on now. So now these 4's will cross off. The pi's will cross off. We'll be left with a, which is what we want. But now what's going on this side? Remember when we divided with double fractions? What we're going to do is we're going to put this 4 pi over 1. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is, remember when you divide by fractions, you really multiply by the reciprocal, right? So what I'm really doing, I'm going to pick a pink color or something here. What I'm really doing with this whole part right here, I'm going to go way up here right there. And I'm going to do pi squared, trying to draw this, over 4 times the reciprocal of 4 pi over 1. So 1 on the top, 4 pi on the bottom, like that. Now, can anything cancel out is the next question. So we know that one of these pi's will cross off one of these pi's. We'll be left with just pi, right? 1 pi, not the pi, it doesn't cross off. Just 1 pi. And then on the bottom, we have 4 times 4, 16, right? So 16 is my bottom. And on the top, I'm left with just pi times 1, or pi. So the answer then should be pi over 16 square units. So let's put that in. Pi over 16. That's a little bit of a weirder problem. 16 square units. And I'm not going to write that all out. Square U, I'll say. Okay. Okay, we are almost done. Let's clear all of our drawings. And let's do problem number 10. A circular pen has an area of 64 square yards. What is the circumference of the pen? So this is the same formula, except this time we don't know circumference. So this is a little bit trickier. Circumference is equal to 4 pi, and the area is given to us as 64 pi. Okay, now how do we solve this? This is 4 pi times 64 times 64 pi. So we have to multiply 4 times 64. So 64 times 4, 64 times 4 is 256. I should have known that one. 256. And what about when we multiply pi times itself? Remember I said don't do that 3.14 times 3.14 yet? No. So it's just pi squared, okay? Just pi times itself. So pi squared. Leave it just like that. And that is all equal to circumference squared. Okay. Now this is weird. When you have a variable, we're trying to solve for c this time. When you have a variable that's squared, in order to find the answer to that, you're going to take the square root of both sides. And I'm surprised they're asking a question like this because I don't remember this being in your book that you've done any problems with square root solving it that way. I know in 8th grade they do. So the square root of c squared, what would you think the square root of c squared is? Well, can you multiply c by itself to get c squared? Yeah, c times c, right? So the square root of c squared is c, and that's what we were trying to get to, is c. Now we need the square root of 256 and the square root of pi squared. So 256 square rooted, you have a square root on your calculator, it's 16. So 16 times 16 is 256, in case you were wondering. So if you didn't know that, you can do trial and error. You could try 10 times 10, that's going to be higher than that because that's 100, right? And then you could try 12 times 12, that's 144. So you'd go up from there. Eventually you'd find out that 16 times 16 equals 256. Or you could just use the square root button on a calculator. So 16 and then pi squared, so it's just like the c squared. So taking the square root of it is just going to leave you with a pi. Okay, so that answer then, that's number 10. The answer for what is the circumference? The circumference is 16 pi. Okay, don't worry about that one too much if that confused you, because on the test I will probably use that as an extra credit problem. So if you want to get the extra credit, you can try this problem on your own a little bit. Number 11, what is the formula for the area of the circle in terms of the radius? They just want you to write this this formula right here. That's all they want you to do. Okay, now we will go to our homework. And what are we going to be doing for our homework? So let me clear all my drawings here and we'll go back to full screen with our Word document. Oh, here's your homework. So your homework is to do page 269 odds. Remember, we combined 2 lessons now, so only do the odds. I don't want you to have too many problems to work on. So 269, just the odds, and then 275, just the odds, and then 276, just do number 21, the only one you have to do. So if you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. And I will email, you can email me or we can do a pop-in session, whatever you need. So we'll see you soon. Bye.